We have another panel prepared for you. These are some longtime Guesty friends and partners of ours. I was actually just talking to Jean-Paul backstage, and I was like, I'm pretty sure we had this almost exact group of people on a panel 2 years ago, and it was one of our most popular ones at Guesty in Tel Aviv. So we're really happy to get the band back together, as it were. And Yoav Tourel from earlier is going to be stepping in, our managing director of APAC. He's going to be running the panel today, talking about maximizing your technology to work for you. So really, more of a thought approach to how to build out your tech stack. Not just with Guesty in mind, but how to work with Guesty, through Guesty, on top of Guesty, every bits and piece. Jean-Paul from HUSWELL is here. He previously was a property manager. He's starting to pivot a little bit into doing some exciting things with his tech stack. I'm really excited for him to share that. Jeremy Gall, founder and CEO of Breezeway, is here. Breezeway is one of our long-standing partners with a really deep integration with Guesty. He really has a really solid understanding of how to try to get the most out of these connections and save you as much time and energy as possible. I liked how Robin referred to it as saving calories, because it truly is. At the end of the day, it's all energy. And then rounding out the panel, we have Don Yeskulsky, CEO and founder of PMS Pros. So please join me in welcoming our panel, everybody.
Okay.
Oh, I did it wrong.
You want to be Jean-Paul?
Yeah.
We said that each one sits under air or is photo. Yeah?
I got mine right.
Good. Excellent. Well, hello everyone. We have quite a packed panel. Lots of questions. I have lots of cards, so we'll start to run with that. But first of all, introductions. Brief introduction, each one, please go.
Sure. My name is Dawn Yeskulsky. I'm the CEO and founder of PMS Pros. We are a technology consulting firm for the short-term rental industry. I've spent 30 years working for some of the largest technology companies within this industry, and I realized that there was not an agnostic, unbiased third party out there that would truly help property managers decide on their technology and cut through the noise. So I set to bring some of the most technologically savvy people with me to help property managers really decide what they need and then help them onboard it.
Thank you. Amazing. Hi, everyone. My name is Jean-Paul, but most people just often call me JP. I'm the founder and CEO of HUSWELL and Tidy. We are Belgium-based companies within the short-term rental industry. Maybe to give you a little bit of background to understand who I am and what we're doing, my journey started initially at the first Guesty conference I've ever attended in 2019 in Tel Aviv. So that was my beginning in joining this amazing industry. And then 2 years later, in just post-COVID, 2021, was the launch of HUSWELL. And within 4 years, we grew up to a property management company generating 50 million in gross booking value, and also in this year launching Tidy, which is our second property management company, which I'll tell a little bit more about later in this session. But I want to also say and mention all of this was thanks to Guesty and a lot of software providers out here, but also the community sitting in front of us. I think one of the strong points here is that we are allowing each other to share failures, wins, making sure that we can talk to each other. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits that Guesty has to offer. So to finish off my intro, I'm very excited about it, but to finish off my intro and showing the explanation about HUSWELL and Tidy, HUSWELL was initially a typical property management company, but transitioned into a European-focused hosting and booking platform. And Tidy is now a typical property management company managing over 500 properties in Belgium. The twist, Tidy runs on just 5 systems. HUSWELL runs on 28 different systems. So I would assume that's maybe one of the reasons why I'm joining the tech conference today on this talk. Good.
Amazing. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Gall. I'm the founder and CEO of Breezeway, longtime partner for Guesty and longtime partner with HUSWELL and Tidy and Jean-Paul. Breezeway helps clients run their operations. We think about it as like, this is where the work of hosting happens. So the work that happens at your property, the way you interact with guests, all the gritty stuff that happens to really drive the guest experience. And we've built our platform up to drive value to clients and help them handle all of those messy workflows and automate more of it, alongside partners such as Guesty, where we have a deep integration. And Jean-Paul and I did a speech like this in Tel Aviv, very similar to this. And so happy to be back here again with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And first question to all of you. Where do you see property managers leaving money on the table with technology they already use or have access to? Don, let's start with you.
What we typically see when we do an evaluation of a property manager's tech stack, and this is a very interesting fact, most property managers only use about 40% of what their technology is capable of doing. And a lot of property managers will have technology that has been in their tech stack for years. And they're not keeping up with what's been added, like the 260 new features that Guesty's rolled out this year. And they've just become complacent. And they don't continue the training. They don't get annual training for their team. They don't communicate with their CSMs at their different technology providers to really find out what is being evolved within their tech. So when they get frustrated or they think that I've outgrown my technology, most of the time we find out that that's really not the case. They're just not using it to its potential. So we think utilizing the technology that you already have in place before you start shopping for the next shiny new object is really where you get the most value.
Yeah, thank you. Totally. I think it's a big one. It's changing the narrative. 2 years ago, it was all about fancy new stuff. We human like dopamine. If everything you add something new, it's cool, it's fancy, it's shiny. But these 2 years, everything has evolved so quickly that if you look at your current tech stack, most of the times you're underutilizing every single part of it. Absolutely. Before you start adding something new, do a deep dive again. Use the Guesty TPM people. Ask your account manager of Breezeway or someone else, guys, how can I utilize your software to the maximum possibilities? And if that's already achieved, then start looking for something else.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think people are just, it's a complicated business. It's very challenging across the value that property managers are trying to deliver both to owners and guests. So it becomes very tempting to optimize every single piece of that. I think you just have to be choosy about how you do it and be really diligent about it. Think about your tech stack and not distracted. It becomes very easy. You finish the season and you're getting into your off season and you think you need to make all these changes. I think you just have to be a little bit more deliberate about it.
Thank you. Jean-Paul, so with HUSWELL transitioning from a PMC company into a platform, how have you integrated different tools to streamline workflow for hosts?
First advice, don't do it. It's been a very tough year, but we're getting there. But secondly, I think today there's two strategies I often see. There's choosing between using best-of-breed products. I think out there, choosing the best product which is available off the shelf, or going to design and build your own custom solutions. However, it's very cost inefficient. You just heard Robin Clifford saying every single month is changing now because AI is changing so much of the things available. So I would often say, into today's ecosystem, there's so many great products out there. Try to choose the right ones to your maximum, and focus on things that really matter within a property management company, which is giving excellent service. We are a property management company. We are not a software company. Software should be an enabler, should be supportive to your business, but it should not be the leading factor. And I think that's something that a lot of people sometimes oversee, and also we did in our own existence. HUSWELL became too complicated. We invested way too much in CapEx, exactly as they said. but that's not the focus.
Good. Now, you mentioned AI. Jeremy, a question for you. With Breezeway leveraging automation, what tangible ways AI already improving the short-term rental operation beyond just the hype?
Beyond the hype.
Beyond the hype.
Beyond the hype. Yeah, I think it's very, look, there is so much data that you, the beauty of vacation rentals and short-term rentals for most of you in the room is that your portfolio is made of authentic, unique properties that are distributed in beautiful locations where people love to come and visit, right? That's what makes this industry so special. And it is also what makes such an aggravating factor to your operations. You are required to provide the same standard of hospitality that someone would get in a hotel room, which is very standard, and you have to execute across that. And so beyond the hype, AI is a great force in driving that automation because you can feed it. It all depends on the context and the data that you can feed it. And what we're seeing is that the more you can feed the system about very specific property data across your portfolio of homes, the more you can feed it information, we call it Blueprint. It's part of our, one part of our product, where we learn about your business process and the decisions you would make and what you do, what do you consider an emergency, and who should be contacted afterwards. And the more you can feed that information, you can tangibly change the relationship of how you do admin and that work gets done, and not replace humans, but shift the workload so that they can provide more human touch and more of a human hospitality experience while you automate away a lot of this admin. That's the trick. And it's the right balance between the two, I think, that drives success.
Thank you. From, let's see, we actually kind of touched it. Don, from your vast experience, how can technology enhance the guest journey while maintaining the human connection that matters most?
Well, that is kind of goes against the whole AI
Yeah,
because you're
exactly
trying to
after that,
maintain
yeah.
that human connection. And a lot of people are becoming very savvy where they realize that it's AI that's responding to them. And that can be off-putting at the same time. So you're in a hospitality profession, but you're having AI communicate with your guests. So it's a trade-off as a property manager where you're going to have to decide, is my AI good enough? Mm-hmm. Is it good enough to replace that human connection that my guests are looking for? And that's where you walk that fine line where, just like Jeremy said, you have to make sure that your AI knows about the unit, knows about the router, the Wi-Fi router, knows the password, so the guests don't get frustrated when you actually are having AI stand in for a human.
Yeah, I think it's just like this that's again, I think it really comes down to that balance, right? That like automated responses, it feels good to be heard, right? You're a guest. I was thinking about this, like I checked into the hotel, had a really good check-in experience yesterday when I got here. The woman at the front desk was really lovely. And I built this connection through this short conversation. I mean, usually checking into a hotel can be a pain in the ass, right? You might have to wait in line. It's not your favorite thing to do. But I actually built like a little bit of a personal connection, I felt like, with the location because of this great conversation I had and the recommendation she gave me to go like find tacos, right? But typically in our business, you don't get that opportunity because check-in is, it's electric, you're using smart locks, people are going straight to the unit, and you have to build that connection through your communication. And it feels good to be heard, so that like automated response, it might not be perfect, but it helps get the conversation going so that you're not just sending a message out into the ether. And then how you balance a little more of that human touch or help someone on your team dig through thousands of pieces of information to find the right Wi-Fi password, or to find the instructions when the guest is having trouble figuring out how to turn on the fireplace or what they're supposed to do. And you can dig that out faster so you can move on to the next thing. Like, this is modern hospitality.
Don and John Paul, when does it make sense to stick with a tool that does the job versus upgrading to a specialized or a more powerful solution? So the good enough versus great tools.
Good question. It all depends on the business again. When does it make sense to stick with a tool versus upgrading? We had so many discussions internally when we should skip something or when we should touch. But it's all about boiling down again to the core focus of the business. We are a property management company. If it's not adding or enhancing the guest experience again, or if it's not improving efficiency, or if it's not improving your cost structure, then you shouldn't use it today. And the more focus you can put again into customer experience, operational excellence, your operational flows, instead of maintaining that specific software system you're having, don't do it. It's really not necessary. It's not the reason why you are going to win over extra owners. It's not the reason why guests are going to stay with you. Not at all. But at the bottom line, it will have a big impact on your P&L.
Yeah.
Skip it.
Don?
When we're approached by property managers that say, I think I've outgrown, let's just say, my PMS, and I need something new, can you help us find our next PMS? What we try to do is first figure out why. And we find that a lot of times switching technology can be an emotional decision. And you're not always basing it on you know exactly what you're looking for in your next tool. It's like a bad breakup. You know, you're in an argument with your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and you say, that's it, I'm done, I'm out, and you rebound. And we call it rebound technology. And you're just like, okay, that next tool is going to be the one that, you know, it's telling me everything that I want to hear. It's making me feel all good and warm and fuzzy. It's going to be the right one. So jumping, sometimes we see, is just an emotional reaction. And we try to take that emotion out of it. And we say, okay, if you can give us 10 reasons why your current technology is not living up to what you need it to do, or if there's not workflows or automations or maybe a simpler plugin that we can provide to fill that gap, yes, let's talk about, you know, a rip and replace. But it's the last thing a property manager wants to do is to replace something like their core PMS that really touches every aspect of their business. So,
thank you. Jean-Paul, back to your point before, what KPIs or success metrics, okay, should operators monitor to ensure that their technology delivers the ROI or what it's meant to be?
KPIs, such a cool word always, eh? KPIs. What KPIs are you having?
The KPI.
I don't know. Well, I do know. There's a few. I always say, stop mentioning the amount of listings. It absolutely says nothing. I said it myself in the intro, sorry, but it doesn't matter. I would say first, cost of acquisition, understanding how much it costs to acquire one new customer or one new listing. Secondly, your RevPAL against market. How well are you performing on your portfolio against market? I would say, what is your contribution margin per listing? Because people who do not know their contribution margin per listing, when they will start calculating it and when they will see what the KPI is, they will very, very much be afraid of the listings that actually are not bringing in money. The amount of listings within a portfolio that are actually creating a loss is actually much higher than people would estimate. So I would say today, watch your CAC, watch your contribution margin, watch your RevPAL against the market, and I'll leave it with those three to start with. If you do know those three, you're already miles ahead of against other property management companies. So start with those three.
Okay, thank you. And maybe to continue that, and that's a question for anyone here, how should growing operators decide which tool to adopt and when? Okay, any red flags? Any point of time that they need to consider?
I would say red flags when you're evaluating new technology.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's a lot. I used to run sales teams for a lot of the technology companies, and I can hear it when I'm listening. And when you're asking very pointed questions and you want very specific yes or no, show me how it's done, and you're not getting those answers, and you're getting very general, yes, we can do that, oh, we integrate with that. That's when my spidey senses, I call it, go off, and I'm like, wait a second. If you're not actually willing to show me specifically how you do it in the software, then something's not right. So that's what I try to tell my property managers that are looking at technology is, don't be afraid to dig. If you're not getting the exact answer that you want, or you're not being shown, make them show you. And if they can't, that's definitely a red flag.
I think in my experience,
Jeremy, you've never done that, right?
I think in my experience talking to property managers for many years about this sort of stuff, I think people actually have a pretty good sense in their soul, like what's going on. They've got a good pulse. Maybe we're just preaching to the choir here, but I think people have a good pulse for their own business, and they understand where their pitfalls are, right? And then when it feels like you just have this like punch in your gut that something isn't right and there's something that you can be doing better, and your tools don't seem to be fulfilling your business goals, you can feel that. I think we've all felt that sometime in our lives, no matter what business you're running. And like that's when you know you need to make a hard evaluation about what's really important to your business. What are the core pillars of my business, and have I actually optimized them? And I think back to one of your earlier questions, that should be your guiding principle about when good enough is good enough and when you need to be great. Like if these are things that are core to your business, the way you do reservation management, the way your team operates, the way you empower the people who do the work for you to get something done, if it doesn't feel right, good isn't good enough. Because everybody in this room is very very tech forward, and the whole industry is tech forward, and is actually using that to separate dramatically from the competition. So I'm not really sure in core areas you can't afford good, you can't afford to just be good.
Well, I talk to a lot of property managers that are just starting out, and they're transitioning from going from maybe managing 2 or 3 of their own properties to now managing, say, 10 properties for others. And now there's a whole different expectation. And what I'm hearing is that the barrier to entry when a property manager is thinking about their starting tech stack, it's not just 2 or 3 or 4 components that they think they need. Now they're looking at a PMS, their website, their booking engine, their revenue management tools, their field operations, their guest messaging, and that just, it creeps. So it just expands and expands, and when you actually look at from a cost perspective, what it takes to put that core tech stack together, it's daunting for a lot of property managers starting out, and they say, I don't know if I can sustain these types of costs.
I'll maybe add one more on it. It's difficult for us to tell when to decide and what to decide on what kind of systems to use today. But I think if there's one tip I could give today is if you're evaluating new software systems, everyone can give a very good sales pitch. I think everyone in this room, all the software providers, marketing providers are amazing at sales. But one thing I believe is support. Is how well is the support after sales? How fast do they respond? What kind of support channels are available? Because buying a software system is cool. It's nice. But once you have it and something hits the fan and you need support, but you need to wait 2 days or they are not reachable, everything goes to the shit. So I would always say, ask them how their support is, what ways they are reachable, and how fast will they reply on.
Which might also kind of connect to what you said, that gut feeling about the potential partner. I learned about red flag that I raised to a prospect when he told me that I said too much the word absolutely. Can you do that? Absolutely. He said, now I know that you can't do it. Yes. So I don't use it anymore. Quickly about building a resilient tech stack. So Jeremy, Jean-Paul, what are the characteristics in your mind of a future-ready tech stack that can evolve as the business grows?
I would say duplication. If you're today running a system and it runs on 100 listings, And it wouldn't break if you would scale to 200 or 300 properties. I think you have something that's working today. But it all depends again on what system you're looking at or what specific department. If people make things over complex, I think that's a sign when it's not scalable today. Workflows, people are making 10 different kind of workflows, while it should actually be one. You have like branches within Breezeway. You have an amazing tool to create like different workflows. If this, then that. But people are starting to add different tags to it, and not one tag, but 5 different tags. No, it should always stay lean and mean because it needs to serve the purpose in the end. If that's not the case, and you're adding 100 properties again, it will break for sure. And then you can sort of. So that's my take on it, but it depends on the business.
Absolutely. No, joking aside, I think you have to, a sign of resilience, I think you have to look at, there's a lot of vendors, there's a lot of technology. I actually think the technology ecosystem in the vacation rental market has become a little too complex. It's sometimes doing a little bit of a disservice to the property managers. And so I think you have to evaluate by thinking about what's the core competency of this system? How is this system going to evolve? I would say a red flag if someone tells you, well, this system is customizable, you know, like we'll do anything that's customized to your workflow. Well, that's really hard to maintain. It's really hard to make a resilient platform that can customize everything to the needs of one manager. Because although we all operate very similarly, you do it a little bit differently, and so you have to be very careful about how you handle that.
Sometimes there's a pitfall in being too customizable.
Yeah.
Because then you go down that wormhole of trying to map it exactly the way that you think it needs to operate. And we find that a lot of property managers don't adapt to the software enough. They expect the software to adapt to them. And these, you have to understand, these are very smart people that have built this software, and they built it for a reason to operate a certain way. And when property managers are too stuck in their own ways, we do it this way because this is always how we've done it. They need to take a step back and really just say, okay, can you show me how your software is going to make my business better or make it easier or be more beneficial to our owners or to our guests, and allow the software to work for you instead of fighting it.
Good. Staying with you, we are now in the last question. Again, for all of you, 1 or 2 actionable takeaway for the audience.
I would say before you evaluate adding any new technology, speak to every single department in your organization. And don't just talk to the heads of the departments. I would say talk to the people that are on the front lines every day, working with the guests, working maintenance in the units, working with the owners, and speak to them about what their days are like and where it can be improved and where their pain points are. Because if you just speak to at one level, you're only getting one side of the story. And once you dig down further, then you're going to find the real things that is going to improve your organization. So I would say don't be afraid to go all the way down to those frontline people to find out what they need.
Yeah. 2 things. First one I said is get those KPIs. They will give you a lot of interesting insights. And the second one, send an email tomorrow to the account manager asking, guys, we're using your software, help me achieve the maximum possibilities with what you're having. Yeah. You'll be amazed what kind of value you'll receive back. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think you should ask your software providers those questions and your team. And I think before you enter a new purchasing decision or you hit the off season and you're evaluating your tech stack, I think it's important to evaluate your business, decide what's important, where you want to focus. You can't be special and perfect at everything. I think it's a good practice to every year think about what are the couple areas, talk to my team, what are the couple areas that we really want to focus on improving? What do we think is going to change the business? and where should we think about improving? Because you can optimize the entire area and the entire surface of your business, and it's hard to do, and you can't do it all at once. Like, that's a recipe for failure. We see that often where people are trying to implement too many pieces of technology at the same time.
Right.
And I would caution you against that and being pretty choosy about how you evaluate.
Okay, thank you. Now, we almost hit the buzzer. We have 1 minute. Any questions from the audience? You made it clear.
I guess we crushed
Seems
it.
like.
All right, look, thank you very much. We're so happy and so honored to have you on stage. Thank you for your time and thank you for your insights. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
all.
Thank you.